With the Festival of Speed going on at the moment, and me having nothing better to do, I thought, you know what? Let's recreate the Goodwood Festival of Speed hill climb, but in my bedroom. Because that's a really smart idea, because who better to drive cars quickly and well than me, a 17-year-old kid who can't drive for anything. Oh god, what could go wrong here? This idea definitely wasn't just nabbed from Jimmy Broadbent. He posted a video like 2 years ago doing this during COVID, and I thought, you know what? It's on at the moment, so why not? I went to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and it was a blast. Absolutely loved it, and I've always driven this circuit, or this hill climb. So let's just record it and do some laps or do some times. I got 25 different cars ready to send up there. Some F1 cars, some rally cars, just some nice cars, and also a bath. Oh yeah, this is gonna go either really, really well or really, really poorly. Just bear in mind, I'm not fast. Some of these times will be atrocious, but I don't want to spend 4 hours per car. So like I said, I have 25 cars lined up, and there's some rather interesting names in here. We have a Formula 4 car, we have a Skip Barber, which if any of you know what that is, that's a fun car to drive. We have a Mini Cooper Challenge car, we have an Aston Martin Valkyrie, and of course, a whole host of different F1 cars. And we're just going to see what happens. But yeah, with that being said, we're going to get straight into it with our first car and see what happens. Starting off straight away, going in there with the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. Now this car weighs in around about 950 kilos, depending on, you know, like, obviously who's driving it. But we're in a game, it doesn't matter. Has a 2.0 inline 4 engine, producing around about 160 horsepower, which it will send to those rear two tyres, which it doesn't give much acceleration, but it's a very nice car to drive. I would recommend using it to learn new circuits. But we're going to get straight into this, starting off, going underway about now to go across the line to start our first hill climb of the video. We're going to hit about 100 k's before the first corner, braking down quite heavily, possibly shifting down. We don't really need to, we didn't go too slowly. Now this second corner is very ballsy, as I like to say, because you can either brake there depending on how fast the car is, or you can just try and send it. Also, we're not going to worry about track limits too much. I won't you know, go off, but it doesn't really matter. Coming up to the massive heavy braking zone, shifting down twice. I think we broke a little bit too much there, a little bit of a lock up of the front tyres, but it's not too big a deal. Full throttle now, down towards the wall. The wall here is, again, another very ballsy section. We're going to let off the throttle, we're not brake, and just kind of roll the car through. We're not going to put too much acceleration in, but we are going to put enough that we will not lose any time here. Now, round the penultimate corner, a right-hander, trying not to hit the hay bales before we go through the last left-hand bend of the track. You can see the finish line just about now, and we're going to cross it at a 1:01.9, which is a very slow time for this hill climb. We'll be getting into the 40 seconds quite soon, but that will obviously put it first for now. It will change very, very quickly, I can tell you for certain. Now our next car, again, another very good car to use to learn how to race and certain tracks. It's the Caterham 420R, coming in at around about 630 kilograms, 175 to 180 brake horsepower, with a top speed of 132 miles an hour. It's a beast, I can tell you that. An open cockpit, front engine car. It's scary to drive sometimes, but it's very, very fun, and you will see that very shortly. Okay, foot on the clutch, first gear, max revs, a little bit of throttle. We're going to let go of the clutch and go full throttle now. A little bit of tyre spin as we go across the line into second gear. Third gear now, 130 k's before the braking zone, heading down to about 80. After that, we're going to probably brake just a little bit here, a little bit of trail braking just to allow us to slow the car down enough that we won't go over and onto the left-hand side of the circuit where there will be spectators. Now, coming up to the heavy braking zone, braking down, shifting down twice, and turning left as early as we possibly can. A little bit off on the right hand side as we come up to the wall now. 150 kilometers an hour, 160 almost, before we break down a little bit and turn in. Very slidey on those rear tyres. That's the one thing with this car. It very much likes to slide whenever it possibly can, which we don't really enjoy, but it's good to learn car control. And we're going to go across the line now, already beating our previous time at a 55.4, smashing that last time by about 6.5 seconds even. 6.5 seconds on the previous car. The next car is a 1969 Porsche 911. Now this is a very interesting car. It's very powerful, coming at around about 250 brake horsepower, but it's also very unstable. But we'll see what the car can do and hopefully not die. Alright, into first gear, clutch all the way down, ready to go now. This is a manual shifter, so it'll be a bit difficult for us. We're away and across the line into second gear, almost third gear. In fact, yeah, in third gear, just before the braking zone, 120 kilometers an hour into that first corner. Very much, you can hear that tyre squeal. I don't know what I just said there. Braking for the second corner, going down to third gear, getting ready to move, to accelerate all the way under the bridge just about now to get ready for this massive braking zone. 170 k's, fourth gear now, third gear, and turning in. A little bit of a drift there, which will affect our time, but to be honest, it's not really gonna matter. Up to fourth gear, and just about fifth before the wall, braking down to about 120 kilometers per hour before we exit the wall. Full acceleration, shifting down one gear for the penultimate corner. It's a pretty long right-hander. You don't really expect it to need a shift down, but most of the time you'll see with these cars, we will shift down once at least, even in like the higher end Formula 1 cars and stuff. But across the line at a 58.3, not beating the Caterham, but beating the Mazda to put it in second for now out of the 3 runners we've had so far. Now the next car is one of my personal favourites. It's the Subaru Impreza WRC car from 1999. First off, the livery is just beautiful, but listen to that engine. 1,994 cc's, turbocharged, 4-wheel drive, 6-speed, manual shifter, sorry, sequential shifter. It's insane. The thing is a beast, and we also get a little spotter who won't help us whatsoever, but it's kind of cool. Alright, on the line then, we're going to put our foot on the clutch to start up the engine, and we're going to put a couple of revs in it and get ready to go in the WRC car away. And the acceleration there is insane. 100 kilometers an hour in third gear, 120, almost 130 before the first corner, braking down to about 80 kilometers an hour, but not having to shift down. Into the second corner we go, no braking whatsoever, just a little bit of a lift. We are in a rally car, so we can bloody go over the grass if we want. What are they going to do? Cry? Probably. Anyways, coming up to the massive heavy braking zone, we're going to brake and shift down from 6th gear to about 3rd now. Definitely 3rd. A little bit of a drift. You can see the wheels lifting some smoke up behind us. Insane. As we come up to the wall at 150 kilometers an hour, braking down to about 120 now. Coming through the wall section, a little bit of a drift. Didn't lose the car, but we almost did. As we brake down for the penultimate corner, 4th gear, 100 kilometers an hour, as we're going to just put our foot down as we go towards the line now. It's looking good for a good time in 6th gear, just before the line. No, just 5th gear, a 55.1. An absolutely mega time. And it puts us right at the top of those timings by about 0.3 of a second. The next car is a big beast. It is the 1966 Ford GT40 Mark I that won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and it did so in style with the beautiful sounding V8 engine, a 5-speed manual gearbox, and it's just a beautiful car. Here we go then, in first gear, across the line we go to start our time. Second gear, it's a very dodgy car, it won't be fast, but it will sound amazing. Second gear, through the first corner, a little bit of a drift out of the corner, braking down a little bit for the second corner. You can just see how much I'm wrestling with the car. I'm not competing against anyone here, I'm just competing against myself. But we're going to break down in 4th gear for the huge left-hander before the wall. 3rd gear, 80 kilometers per hour as we head towards the wall. Foot flat to the floor. We're not going to shift up to 4th just before the wall. We're We're going to brake a little bit and down to about 120 k's, 110 k's now, before accelerating out of the wall section and braking down, shifting down to second gear for the penultimate corner once again. A little bit of a snap oversteer, sorry, there. But it's all good. Third gear, avoiding those hay bales very well to set a 56.7 across the line, which won't be fast enough for first or second, but it should put us in third position for now, which is a solid time for a 1966 car. Now the next car is a pretty big step up in not only time but also power, and it's the Praga R1, specifically with Jimmy Broadbent's Team 87 livery on it, coming in with a Formula Renault 4-cylinder 210 brake horsepower engine. It's a pretty nice car to drive. It's really fun, and it's very light as well, very, very light. We should have no trouble getting across the line here, getting the revs in, first gear, getting ready to go, and we are underway in the Praga, about 100 kilometers an hour just before shifting up into second gear, 130 kilometers an hour before the first corner, coming out of the first corner at 100 kilometers an hour, a little bit of braking for corner number 2, but a very small amount, fourth gear, before the bridge, 180 kilometers an hour as we go underneath it, heading towards a heavy braking zone, fifth gear, braking down, shifting down to third gear, locking up both front wheels, which is a skill in itself. Fourth gear before the wall, 160 kilometers an hour, braking down just a little bit, 140 kilometers before coming out of the wall section, braking down for the penultimate corner, 100 kilometers an hour in third gear. We're going to now just accelerate towards the line, 160, 170, fifth gear, 180 as we go across the line to set a 50.9, which will fly to the top of the timings by 5 whole seconds, or just over 4. Now the next car is a car that I love. So I've seen these in real life, and they are just as brutal sounding as you would think, spitting flames out of the rear exhaust, but it's the Mini Cooper Challenge car, the 2022 version, I think. I'm not sure on that. And it's powerful, it's small, and it packs a punch, which you will definitely see, as I reckon we're looking at a pretty fast time here. Not faster than the Praga, but definitely faster than everything else. But here we are then, first gear, getting ready, across the line we go, a lot of wheel spin as we come off the line. You can see the smoke in the rear view mirrors there, as we come in fourth gear towards turn 1, 120 kilometers an hour, getting it close to that right-hand barrier, or right-hand bale I should say, braking a little bit for turn 2, but nothing too major. Fourth gear, fifth gear now, 160 kilometers underneath the bridge. Sixth gear, heading up towards a heavy braking zone, braking on the left-hand side markers, locking up every tyre in existence, but it doesn't really matter. Third gear, out of the corner, heading towards the wall now. Fourth gear, 140, maybe 150 kilometers an hour. Fifth gear, I don't know why we shifted up there, but we'll stick with it. Barely braking down, actually, though. We were very confident here, and actually only lost about 10 kilometers an hour. A little bit of a drift out in the penultimate corner as we head towards that left-hander to finish off the lap. Let's see what we can do as we go across the line. We're going to set a 53.9, which is a solid lap time. That will put us P2, like I said. Very, very nice. That puts us directly in P2. The next car is another WRC car. This is a Toyota Celica ST185, coming in with an inline-4 engine, producing about 204 brake horsepower as it sends it to all 4 of the wheels with a turbocharge in the engine. Let's just see what it can do. Let's not waste any more time. Here we go then, throttle pedal all the way to the floor. We're going to launch across the line. Amazing acceleration, 100 kilometers an hour before the first corner, 120-ish in fourth gear. We're going to shift down. No, we're not. Never mind. Screw me. Into the second corner. We've got a little tap on the brakes, but nothing too much. Fifth gear now. 150, 160 kilometers an hour underneath the bridge as we come into the heavy braking zone to the left-hand corner. Braking down, sliding as we do into fourth gear, shifting down twice, which is a surprisingly small amount as we head towards the wall now. Now this is where we can either make or break the lap. We'll have to see. Breaking down a little bit, very close on that left-hand side, almost smashing into the wall, and shifting down into fourth gear for the penultimate corner, 100 kilometers an hour. This is a very, very fast car, and it is very fun to drive, nearly hitting those bales on the left-hand side. We go across the line, 170 kilometers an hour for 54.5, which should give us a podium position. I mean, it won't be there, but there we go, P3. It will definitely not be there within a minute. or two, I don't really know. Now, another completely different car to any of the others. This is a Cupra Leon Competizione with a 2.0 litre inline-4 engine producing 335 horsepower with a 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. So this should be a very interesting hill climb. Here we go then, first gear. We're going to get the revs up, see what we can do as we start our lap to go across the line, foot flat to the floor, and even more wheel spin than the previous cars. You can still see the smoke in that rear view mirror as we break down first corner, about 80 kilometers an hour, which is quite slow. We pick up in that acceleration throughout the course, shifting up to fourth around about now, 160 something, 170 kilometers an hour underneath the bridge, heading towards the heavy braking zone in that left-hand corner, shifting down twice, 100 kilometers an hour into that left-hand bend. Full throttle on the exit, absolutely sending it towards the wall. Fourth gear, 60 kilometers an hour as we hit the wall, 130 as we come out of it. Fourth gear, breaking down to third gear now as we go through that penultimate corner, always shifting down pretty. I think you'll see most cars will shift down, but shifting up into fourth just before the final corner as we go to get to cross the line, 180 kilometers an hour at 53.4, which should see the car in about P2, and it does. P2 just behind that Praga by a solid 3 seconds. Now this car's a rather interesting one because I've never actually seen this car before I found the mod for Assetto Corsa, but it's a EuroNASCAR, which I never knew existed, but it's just a bit less powerful than the American NASCAR, but it sounds just as beastly, and it will be very, very heavy into the corners. We'll see what it can do. It has very slow acceleration, very heavy, very slow in corners. What could go wrong? And here we go then. 4-speed manual gearbox, first gear as we go across the line. A very slow start, a bit of wheel spin as we go across that line though. Second gear, just about 125 kilometers an hour into the first corner, which is surprisingly fast. It's a lot faster than I thought. Second gear, 130 before that second corner. We're going to come out of that corner now, shift up into third. 175, 180 underneath the bridge. Fourth gear, breaking down this heavy braking zone, which is really where you'll see the NASCAR lose a lot of time, locking up that front left tyre as well. The brakes are very sensitive because you don't normally use brakes in NASCAR unless you're at a road circuit. So it's a bit difficult sometimes to brake, but we'll live. Third gear, braking down and shifting down to second, about 100 kilometers an hour in the penultimate corner, coming through to the the final corner in third gear. 160 kilometers an hour, 170, 180 across the line at a 53.5, 1/10 slower than the Cupra Leon, which is very surprising. Like, very surprising. Moving on rather swiftly to a lovely Italian supercar, which is the Lamborghini Huracan ST, 620 horsepower. A madness of an engine and a top speed of 310 kilometers an hour. Let's see what this thing can do up a hill climb, and I reckon it might be pretty fast. Here we go then, in the Lamborghini. We are underway across the line. Great acceleration up to second gear, third gear before the first corner, braking down but just about having to shift down to get a little bit more acceleration into corner number 2. A little bit of braking. Oh bloody hell, almost losing the car. I did not almost, but you know what I mean. Coming up towards the bridge now, 190 kilometers an hour underneath the bridge. Braking down into the long left-hander, into third gear, 100 kilometers an hour, full throttle out of the corner. We do have a little bit of traction control with these GT3 cars and ST cars, which is quite nice. Sticking to the left-hand side of the wall as close as possible. Braking and shifting down into third gear, 100 kilometers an hour into the penultimate corner, full throttle now to the line, fourth gear, maybe just about fifth gear, as we go and we hit the line with a 48.8, which will shoot us to the top of the timings by quite a substantial amount. Moving on to the McLaren 720S GT3 edition, rocking a Formula 1 style livery with the numbers 3 and 4 for Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. It has a twin turbo V8 producing a lot of horsepower, 4.0 litres, 6-speed gearbox, so it should be pretty rapid up this hill climb. Here we go then, on the line, very high up in the cockpit. We're away for the lap. Not very fast getaway, pulling to the left hand side of the track because this thing can turn a bit funny, but we're going to cut across to the right hand side of the track, hitting that right hand curve, or not curve but apex, and quite a big dip into the grass. That's going to cut off quite a bit of time. 190 kilometers an hour under the bridge into the heavy braking zone now, shifting down into second gear, 98 kilometers an hour, out of the corner, full throttle towards the wall. We're going to be in fourth gear for the wall, braking a little bit, shifting down as well, just to be safe, to make sure we get that acceleration out of the wall, shifting down to second gear for the penultimate corner, seeing how much throttle we can get on. It might beat the Lambo here, maybe. It will. A 48.3 will beat the Lamborghini by a whole half of a second, so that will put it straight up in P1. Now the next car just sounds godly. It's the Porsche 911 RSR, the 2018 version, carrying a 6-cylinder engine. Okay. A 6-cylinder engine producing around about 540 horsepower. So it's going to be pretty goddamn quick. Here we go then, ready to unleash all 540 horsepower across the line. Here we go, up into second gear, third gear, almost fourth gear before the line, 100 kilometers an hour through the first corner into the second corner now. A little bit of braking, but a very small amount. Third gear still, fourth gear now. Going to go up into fifth, just underneath the bridge, 192 kilometers an hour, heading towards the long braking zone. A little bit of a tyre lock up there, but nothing too major. Third gear, 100 kilometers an hour, which is a very usual thing for these sorts of cars. Braking down just before the wall, 150 kilometers an hour into the penultimate corner, braking down and shifting down into fourth gear, 100 kilometers an hour, shifting down into third now, just to get that extra acceleration towards the line. Fourth gear, fifth gear, 190, 208 kilometers an hour, 47.4, which will put the Porsche up into P1. That thing's loud, my ears really hurt, bloody hell. Now our next car is an LMP2 car. It's a Cadillac LMP2 car producing 600 horsepower from a 6.2 litre V8. Rear-wheel drive, 6-speed automatic sequential gearbox. It's pretty powerful, and you'll see it's so nice to drive. If you don't have this mod, look for it, install it. It's so nice to drive. Here we are then to set our one uphill time. We're underway. Here we go. A pretty good acceleration. 150 kilometers an hour before braking in second gear. It's a very powerful car. Into the second corner, a little bit of a dip off the left-hand side into the grass. But it's not going to gain us any time. It will only lose us time, which people don't really understand. Dipping into the grass will only lose us time. But going down now, third gear, second gear into the really long left-hander, 120 kilometers an hour, heading towards the wall, third gear, 180, fourth gear, 200 kilometers an hour before the wall, in fourth gear, absolutely flying through, braking for the penultimate corner, shifting down to third gear, 120 kilometers per hour. Let's see what else could happen now. Nothing too much, avoiding the bales pretty well, fourth gear, fifth gear, 230 kilometers an hour, a 44.7, which will absolutely smash that Porsche out of the park by about 2.5 seconds. Insane. Now the next car is one of many open wheelers that you will see today, and this one is the Formula 3 with a V6 engine producing 380 horsepower to both of the rear wheels, and we can also use DRS when we feel like it, but we probably won't use it too much. Here we go then in the cockpit. First gear, we're going to have to be careful off the line. Can't slam it to the floor, but we're going to try it anyways. A major amount of wheel spin. and a little blip of DRS just to kind of get us moving through the first corner, second gear, 100 kilometers an hour. Coming towards the second corner now, third gear. Now we're going to open up our DRS as we go towards that heavy braking zone under the bridge, 210 kilometers an hour. Fifth gear, almost sixth before breaking down. Fourth gear, third gear, and into the corner, 100 kilometers an hour, which is a very obvious theme here, as I'm normally 100 kilometers through there. 200 kilometers an hour towards the wall, playing very ballsy here, and into the penultimate corner, third gear, 120 kilometers an hour, opening up the DRS for the last corner, which might be a bit dodgy, but we should be fine. Almost hitting the bales on our left, and across the line to set a 44.4 second time, which will put us just above the Cadillac by 0.3 of a second. Now, the next car is one of the first Formula 1 cars that we will see, and it's the Lotus 49, driven famously by Jim Clark, and this thing is, when I tell you it's a pain to drive, I mean it, and you'll see what I mean. But it has a very nice sounding engine, so you let off there, Lotus. Here we go then. In the Lotus, we have a manual shift. Let's go across our line. Second gear, third gear before the first corner. You can see already how much the car wants to just spin around and send me into a wall, having to bear. Okay, drifting through corner 2. No braking needed, because we almost broke our neck. But into fourth gear before the heavy brakes, and we're not actually going to brake too heavily straight away, because we will lock up these front tyres very easily. So we're just easing through, you know, keeping the car alive. It's one of the first Formula 1 cars, and it will not get it will get beaten by everything to come. So there's no point absolutely sending it into a wall, because there's just no need. So fourth gear just before the last corner, and we're going to look towards the line, almost losing the car, and across the line to set a 50.2, which is, it's quite a lot slower than a lot of the other cars we've had so far. In fact, I believe that would put us behind the Lamborghini. Yeah, behind the Lamborghini, which is not surprising whatsoever. We're going to skip ahead 19 years now, sticking with Lotus though, to the Lotus 98T. Now that T is very important because it means turbo. This thing is insanely turbocharged to the point where it will be slower for me to drive it with turbo on, which I will, because of how powerful it will be, because it's so much harder to control. So yeah, this should be shocking. Okay, here we are. You can see that 100 on the dashboard, meaning 100%. We're going to go away pretty slow off the line, but once that turbo kicks in, it's a beast. Third gear, second gear into turn 1, 90 kilometers an hour. You'll see this acceleration here is going to be mental. Second gear, we're already at 150 kilometers an hour, shifting up to third, fourth now, 200, fifth, 260 kilometers an hour before braking down to that left-hander. Once again, 100 kilometers an hour out of the corner. Honestly, this thing's harder to drive than anything I've ever driven before. Absolutely flying through the wall, almost hitting it on our left-hand side, but we don't. We're just too skilled. But yes, absolutely insane as we go across the line at 250 kilometers an hour, 45.0, which is a rapid time. And with that time, that will put us P3 on the leaderboard for now. Now we move on a couple of years, but sticking with Ayrton Senna's cars. This is the McLaren MP4-4, arguably and statistically one of the most successful Formula 1 cars to ever exist. Why? The power under my right foot is so much I can probably kill an elephant with it. We're going to go across the line and get as fast as we can. 100, nearly 200 kilometers an hour into turn 1, third gear. A little bit of a right tyre lockup into second corner. No braking, just a lift off the throttle. The grip and the downforce is insane. Sixth gear, braking down to the heavy braking zone, shifting to third, a little bit of a drift, as we were a little bit too high up in the red limit for third gear at the time. Heading into the wall, fifth gear, 160 kilometers an hour, absolutely flying towards every corner that comes towards us. Penultimate corner complete, just the left-hander left, and we're going to cross the line at a 22, which will put us, I believe, right at the very, very top. And we move on to a no longer successful Formula 1 team, sorry Williams. It's a Williams FW14, one of the coolest cars ever. It was the base for the car with the active suspension. It had one of the first sequential paddle shifted gearboxes in Formula 1 history, ABS and traction control, and one hell of a lot of power. This car is absolutely insane, and we're going to send it up the hill now. Second gear, 150 kilometers an hour. The absolute roaring engine behind us is deafening, but in such a good way. Third gear, fourth gear, almost fifth gear underneath the bridge. 240 kilometers an hour into the heavy braking zone, shifting down to second gear, 100 kilometers an hour. Towards the wall now, 180, 200, 220 kilometers an hour in fourth gear as we head towards the wall. Almost going on the right-hand side off of the track there. We've never really done that. Into the penultimate corner now. Third gear, 180, 190, 200 kilometers an hour. We're going to go across the line. Fifth gear, 260 to set a 41.9. Absolutely shredding every other car that has been sent up this hill so far. And it just gets faster. Well, mainly just gets faster. And now we skip ahead quite a bit to the 2007 Formula 1 season with the MP22 driven by none other than Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, with the beautiful Vodafone livery and the absolute roaring engine behind us, which gives us one hell of a lot of power. Now I reckon this thing's going to be blisteringly fast. We've got across the line, traction control and ABS are equipped with this car. Second gear into turn 1, absolutely flying through so far. Into turn 2, quite a bit of braking to slow this thing down. This is mental, 250 kilometers an hour, fifth gear underneath the bridge, into the heavy braking zone, sixth gear, coming out of the corner at 130 kilometers an hour, which is so much more than the other cars. 200 kilometers an hour into the wall, almost hitting on the left. I think we might have even had a little bit of a scrape there, not even having to brake or shift for the penultimate corner. The final corner is an absolute flyer, 280 kilometers an hour. It's a 37.4. A 37.4 is a new hill climb record, technically, but it doesn't really count. But that's going to put it right up at the top. 37.4, that's going to be difficult to beat that, but I reckon I got something up my sleeve that will. And we move on to this rather futuristic looking beauty. It's the Apollo Intensa. I'm not even going to try and say that word, but I have seen one of these in real life and it looks just as beautiful. Yeah. This thing is loud. And it has a naturally aspirated 6.3 litre V12, giving out about 780 horsepower. This thing will be fast, but I don't think it will beat the McLaren just yet. But here we go then. Luckily inside the cockpit, it's nice and quiet. I can hear myself think. But that V12 is sending so much power into those rear wheels. It's insane. Into the second corner, having a little bit of braking. Third gear, up towards the bridge now. 190, 210 kilometers an hour in fourth gear. Fifth gear, into the heavy braking zone of that left-hander. We're taking it nice and cautiously because this thing does like to slip out its rear end quite a lot. But not just yet. We're all good for now. Into the wall, 140 kilometers an hour, fourth gear. Into the penultimate corner now. Braking and shifting down to third gear, 100 kilometers an hour. Coming out of the corner and just absolutely sending it now towards the wall. Towards the finish line, sorry, not the wall. 45.3. Which again, is not going to beat many cars. But listen to that engine. Oh, it should win just for style points. But it puts it in P7 for now. Moving swiftly on to not a Formula 1 car, but at a quick glance, people might think it is. But this is an American IndyCar, specifically the Arrow McLaren IndyCar. Luckily for McLaren fans, they are much more successful in IndyCar than Formula 1, which is very good because it's nice to see us win for once. Oh. But yeah, it's fast, it's ferocious, it has a V6 twin-turbo engine producing many, many horsepowers. Let's see what it can do up the hill. Now this thing is so nice to drive, it's just so smooth, but you can see you'll see the flames in those rear view mirrors as we shift up gears. Going towards the first corner now, third gear almost. Look at the flames. Insane. Almost losing the rear end. Into the second corner. Flying through, but unfortunately there's just not enough power there to even compete. But listen to the engine. That is so... I don't want to say orgasmic, but it just is. I love it so. I love the IndyCars. I wish they would do Euro IndyCar, because I would so go and see that. Anyways, into the penultimate corner. Second gear, 130 kilometers an hour out the corner. We're going to absolutely send it now towards the line. Fourth gear. Fifth gear, 240 kilometers an hour, set at 42.6, which is pretty fast as we lock up every single tyre known to man. But that will put us pretty high up, if I do say so myself. And now we move on to a car that used to hold the record at this hill climb until I believe it was last Saturday or Sunday. But it's a Volkswagen IDR. It's a fully electric Volkswagen, one gear, and an insane amount of downforce. It was used to race up Pikes Peak hill climb, which is notorious for these sorts of cars, and they brought it here, and now I'm bringing it here, and I won't beat the record, but I will try my best. Here we go then, in the Volkswagen. We are underway. What a start. The acceleration is insane. Putting to the left hand side, because these sorts of cars are notorious for every kind of steer, under and over, but never normal steer. Electric cars just do not steer well, but it's an absolutely rapid car. I mean, look at the speed heading into the corner. I mean, it's one gear, so I only have to focus on braking, which is really nice for me. But just look at the speed as we head towards the wall. Absolutely flying through, trying not to kill ourselves. Although it's sometimes really tempting. I shouldn't say that. Sure. Anyways, coming up to the line here then, we're going to set a 42.3. Now that puts us in P3 by 0.3 of a second off of the IndyCar, which is unsurprising. And now we move on to the penultimate car. The Formula 1 car, specifically the Alpine A5 22, the 2022 Formula 1 Alpine. Now hopefully, the inner Fernando Alonso comes out whilst driving this beauty. But it is so nice. We have ERS and DRS. Let's just get into it. Here we go then, in the Alpine. We're going to be very careful off the line because this thing does like to spin as much as possible. Third gear, you can see the front just almost losing it. Fifth gear, fourth gear into turn 1, heading towards turn 2 now. Out of turn 2, we're going to activate our DRS and absolutely send it towards the heavy braking zone. 7th gear, 8th gear, and braking down now to 4th. 130 kilometers an hour. This is looking fast, but I don't think it will be fast enough. Into the wall, 180 kilometers an hour. Absolutely rapid pace. You can hear the engine behind us just working as hard as possible as we now just fly towards the line. DRS open just after the corner, and that's a 37.7, which will put us in second position behind the McLaren MP22. Wow, okay. And with most Assetto Corsa videos, the final car is usually the Red Bull X 2010, but I thought, let's use something slightly different, but an actual car, a car that exists. This is the Porsche 919 Hybrid Evo that has set the lap record at the Nordschleife, and for good reason. And I reckon we may just set the lap record here as well. We'll just have to see, but you can just hear the engine. I'm having to shout, and it's still loud. Let's just see what we can do, eh? Here we go then. We have ERS, first gear. The acceleration is going to be insane. Let's go, go, go. Second gear, third gear, fourth gear. 5th gear almost, just before the corner. 3rd gear out of corner 1. A little bit of braking into turn 2. Let's go. Absolutely flying so fast. All we had to do was shorten the gear ratio for the acceleration. And this thing is insane. 200 plus kilometers an hour before that wall. Braking down a little bit into the penultimate corner now. 4th gear. 140 kilometers an hour out of it. Into the 5th gear. 6th gear. And we're going to go across the line to set a 35 seconds. 35. I'm trying not to shout, but 35 seconds will absolutely send this beast to the very top of the timing. Wow. And with that, this video comes to an end, but I just wanted to say, I know this video is really long, and I mean really long, but I have really enjoyed making it, and I really hope you enjoyed watching it. And if you did, please let me know, because I would love to do more Assetto Corsa videos in the future, you know, trying to break lap records and stuff. I'm not great at second times, but I'll always give it a good go. And I've just always loved Assetto Corsa. It'd be great fun to be able to just chuck some funny mods around a track or something. So if you did really enjoy it, let me know. F1 2022 comes out the day this is getting posted, and I will be playing it the day after. I'm playing it on the Friday, but I won't have a video ready until that Saturday. But it will be coming, and I promise you that. But anyways, thank you for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like and subscribe. This video took so much effort. You don't understand. And there were so many times where it all went wrong. I think I had to record about 70 different hill climbs in the end. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.